Welcome back to Excel 10-Minute Leaders Live. My name is Graham Brown, joined in the studio today by author and public speaker, Dr. Anderson Prewitt. Anderson, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Great to be here.
Excellent to have you here. Right, we've got 10 minutes together. Are you ready?
I think I am, yes.
Let's get straight to business. The business cards. What's on yours?
So I would say Dr. Anderson D. Prewitt. I'm a technology consultant. I'm really a innovation consultant, because I really help people try to realize and understand, especially nowadays, how they can apply technology to help their business, their organization really innovate and grow. And that's pretty much what I do.
Okay, great. What is the problem with that? Why do organizations struggle with innovation?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of reasons. I think, one of the biggest challenges now is there's so many things coming to everybody, all at once. I think if nothing else, worldwide, last year we realized 2020 kind of hit everybody. And it's for various different reasons. But, fundamentally, what really happened, across the world was, we really had systems breaking down. And, there's a combination of things that kind of, happened, both good and bad, that we saw. For those organizations that were able to kind of be successful and were able to kind of overcome, and the organizations that were not successful did. The main things being that combination of, how these different systems, economically, we're all connected, work together. So everything from, the supply chain all the way in, Asia affects people all the way in the US. And we saw those, we were having trouble getting masks and information, things like that. But at the same time, with the, surplus of, say, data and information that's available, we're able to, come up with vaccines and spread and find out, where and track diseases and all kind of information in, semi-real time, worldwide, which is a huge deal. If you look at the speed at which kind of things happen. And so both from the world stage, but from the innovation stage, you have that yin and yang, that push and pull, the positive and negative effects of both technology and data and, these different things and they're available, and how they affect ultimately not only, organizations and communities and business. And so what I kind of try to look at is from a, kind of sort of at a high level, how do all these things kind of come into play together so that in any one, say, business organization, what are the tools that are available to you to try to, wrangle some of that information, or wrangle some of that data, or kind of get your systems working in sync so that you can accomplish what you want to do.
So let's talk about innovation then, and let's talk about some examples. When people think innovation, and you ask the average person, they'll probably think of the most commonly named brands like the Apples of this world, the innovative companies, or maybe Pixar. These are obvious examples, and these are in every single business book. But for you, what examples can you share with us about innovative companies or organizations that aren't so well known or aren't those obvious choices? Are there people out there innovating who aren't getting the credit for it, or it just doesn't look like innovation to us?
Yeah, I think especially nowadays, it's one of those things where, innovation can happen in any, shape, form, or fashion, but it's how do we define it and how do we recognize it? And a lot of times we don't necessarily recognize it until we realize the impact it's had on something else, right? So it's easy to say now that something like, YouTube is super innovative. You think about all they've done and how people use it, and people are watching YouTube sometimes more than TV. They're getting news information from social media, things like that. Flash forward back a couple of years ago, when you first had just creators and cat videos, people didn't really know at the time what it was or how to define it or what to use it. And so I think now what you've seen, if you're talking about just from a business standpoint, you see businesses are finding ways to be very creative. Look at something like Zoom. Zoom, would definitely be considered an innovative company, even at the time, but they were just doing what other companies were doing. There were many, broadcast platforms and videos, things out before Zoom was. Zoom basically, and they saw a huge swell of people who are now using these online, these platforms to do more stuff. So now some of the innovations you're seeing is things like with the rise of remote work, right? As people are working remotely and they're doing more things, most of the technology that they're using to do it were already available, prior to, say COVID and what happened last year. But now what you're seeing is companies are kind of, really stepping up and being more innovative in how they do that. One really easy place to look at it in terms of like, just backyard, get your front door innovation is some of the small, but especially restaurants who were very innovative, when the pandemic first hit. When there was a global lockdown and people couldn't really just go out and get things the way they normally would do. a lot of these companies you have, the Grub Hubs and Uber Eats who were already doing delivery, but a lot of other restaurants had to get really, really innovative in how they both advertised, got to know their customers, and how they basically did a lot of the same things they were already doing, but just in new and different ways to try to, basically handle, what had changed. And so even something as simple as that is an example of innovation. And so it's, some of them are using technologies and these big companies like Uber and things like that. Some of them are just realizing like, hey, if I just change the way that I would normally look at my customers and just go out into the neighborhood, interact with the community, do these different things, that's innovation in and of itself. And then as you kind of put the different systems together, a system which can be some technology like email campaigns, it can be something like just how you organize your people, some point of sale system, putting those together in unique ways can actually help you to overcome challenges to your business, your organization.
I wonder if we tend to overcomplicate innovation. Actually, it's a lot simpler. Yes. It sounds. That seems to be the message coming out here is that we tend to put innovation on this pedestal, and it's this mysterious thing that geniuses do. And who are generally innovators? What typically are these people? Who are these people innovating out there?
Right. So I think the common misconception, if I'm being honest, I think it is the fact that we ask it in that way, right? Like, who are these people? When in actuality, it's usually who are these groups of people? Who are these teams? Who are these folks that come together, right? I think so my background is like R&D. I was in material science, where I was a data scientist, and I've done a lot of research and development with a lot of companies, talk about a lot of things. And when you compare R&D, whether you talk about it in a government lab or at a university or everywhere else, it's the same type of research and development that you would do in your own company, or even as an entrepreneur, to kind of figure out, okay, what we call experiments in the lab, where I may take chemicals and materials and put them together and put them under a microscope and do these different things. I'm experimenting every day with my business when I'm trying to see, okay, what price is the best price, or how do I send the best email to get the best response, right? And typically in most organizations or most times, it's most effective when you have a team of people helping you, right? The kind of the standard idea, we think of these great, huge innovators, and we have, we've got Steve Jobs, you have the Bill Gates, you have Einstein, things like that. But what we also forget is, many of them, have teams, they have people they worked with. This is nothing that doesn't take away from their genius and their creativity, but their organization and their team and what they're able to build typically comes from, other things that they learned or other people who kind of came before them to either help them or mentor or guide or work together with them. And so a lot of times, one of the biggest parts of innovation is just how that, that collaborative piece, right? Like, how do we work together within our team to be able to make changes or take a small idea that's good and make it better. And that usually comes from some form of like teamwork. And so I think, a lot of times, for me at least, I always try to kind of push back on the idea of like, who's the one or who's the two, whatever, when usually the true innovation comes from how well you can really communicate and work with a team and do things together. That's what really brings a lot of change and really innovative, creative stuff to grow.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. With that in mind, then, we've got 2 minutes left, Anderson. If you were to advise the audience, and let's assume that the audience are entrepreneurs, business owners, they're thinking about innovation. Maybe they don't think about it in an academic context, but those experiments that they're running in the business. In those 2 minutes, what could you teach them, that will improve their businesses? One takeaway for them about innovation.
Yeah. The biggest takeaway I would say is to really embrace and understand that, the change isn't coming, the change is already here, and really kind of embrace digital innovation, embrace the idea that, there's more data now being created than ever in the future. So having some systems in place in your business, whether it's, ERP, something to manage human resources, something to manage your sales, is extremely important. But, AI and artificial intelligence, machine learning, those things are there. But, all of those are meaningless without context. So I think it's ultimately important to, one, understand not only that, there's data and information available that's out there that's more than ever before that you can use to help your business and help find your customers and help exchange value so you can, get better returns. But it's also important to understand the context and understand what you uniquely bring to the table to be able to help more people. Because really, at the end of the day, business is all about value exchange, right? Where I have something valuable, I want to exchange it with you for something valuable. Sometimes it's my product for your money. Sometimes it's my product for your time, my service, whatever it is. And so embrace the digital change that's happening and utilize the tools available. That's what I would say.
Dr. A.D. Prewitt, everybody. Where do we find out more about you?
DradPrewitt.com. DradPrewitt.com. Best place
Fantastic.
to hit me up.
Thanks for joining us on Excel 10 Minute Leaders Live today. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.